Okay, can everybody see me? Yes?
Mhm.
Okay, great, because I don't see me, but that's fine. I get to see Gary. You are about to start on an amazing adventure. And that adventure is the adventure of Speechcraft. You are going to transform and change over the next 4 to 6 months. Whether you are an experienced speaker or you are a brand new speaker. Brand new speaker, you'll get more confidence, you'll develop a lot of skills. Experienced speakers, you are going to go to a whole different level. How do I know? Because 5 years ago, when I joined Toastmasters, I had a lot of attitude. I felt like, hey, I've been speaking for 17 years. What could Toastmasters teach me? And I remember sitting in the room and watching the other speakers thinking, oh, well, I speak better than them. And then James Jeffley got on the stage. Now, if you don't know James Jeffley, you will, because he's going to be one of our presenters later on in this Speechcraft. He gave a speech that blew my mind. He was engaging, he was compassionate, he was inspiring, he was entertaining, and I just loved, I thought it was the most perfect speech I'd ever heard. And then Cynthia Stott, our very own president, gave him stretch goals. I fell out of my chair. I couldn't believe it. And they were good ones. And then I said, I can learn here. And that's when I decided to join Toastmasters. And shortly thereafter, I went through my first Speechcraft. And although I was an experienced speaker, I was an experienced speaker at speaking for 20 minutes. And Toastmasters asks you to speak for 6 or 7 minutes. And I was terrified that I would forget my speech. And so my first Speechcraft, I went through 3 speeches and gave an evaluation in my very first Speechcraft. And it was good because it's real easy for you to kind of get cold feet and sort of let the weeks go by and by when you're a new Toastmaster. But in Speechcraft, you are put right up there and given the opportunity in a small group to share your speech. Now, there are 3 things that you really need to have to improve. One is you need to speak. And the more you speak, the better you get. As Kathleen pointed out, it was the students who did a lot of projects that improved, not the ones who tried to do their very best. So the more you speak, the better you get. Number two, you need to get evaluations. This is the way in which you improve. Not only get evaluations, give evaluations. When you learn to give evaluations to motivate and actually improve somebody else, you improve yourself. But finally, and most importantly, you need to stretch yourself. I have known plenty of Toastmasters who will just go and do the speeches, and they'll rack up the points and they'll get the awards, but they do not improve because they do not listen to the evaluation, or maybe they don't get good evaluations and they don't change. But you are in luck because you are in one of the best clubs there is in terms of getting evaluations and in transforming your speech. So those are the 3 things. You need to speak as much as you can. 2, give and receive evaluations. And 3, stretch yourself. So let's talk a bit about the value of public speaking. Now, I know that you're all Toastmasters, except for I don't know about the guests, but what is the value of public speaking? Well, it makes it easier for you to express your opinion, to speak up in meetings, to have a voice. When you are not used to speaking, you might fumble for words. You might express in a way that's offensive to people. I remember my husband and I going to a city meeting one time, and he was very, very adamant to get people to change their mind. But he was really aggressive. And people actually pulled away from him. So tone is really important, as Tasia pointed out to us, to learn how to use your tone, how to persuade people, how to construct your speech in a way that really influences people. And you can do this both in prepared speeches, where you can actually craft it, and you also want to do it in impromptu speeches. And hopefully we're going to have some time today to do impromptu speeches. So now I'm going to share my screen and hopefully find the one thing I need to share with you, which is a skills assessment. Yes, it's right there. Okay. Let's hope I can share my screen. And I want you to go along with me on this. And I want you to take a piece of paper out, and I want you to write for each of the questions. I'll give you a little remember word. And don't worry, you'll actually get this in the Speechcraft program later on. But right now, I want you to just have this information for your records. And this is an assessment. There's no right or wrong in this. So don't take a long time to put your answer down, just the first thing. So strongly disagree is 1, and strongly agree is 5, and the other numbers fall in between. So the first one is, generally, I'm comfortable while participating in group discussions. Strongly disagree, or strongly agree, or somewhere in between. So you could put down group discussions as the way to remember your number. The next one is, I'm very calm and relaxed when I'm called upon to express an opinion at a meeting. 1 is strongly disagree, all the way up to 5, strongly agree. So put your number down, and you could put next to it meetings. The next one is, I like to get involved in group discussions. Strongly agree, or strongly disagree. Strongly agree is 5, strongly disagree is 1. And you could put down involved. Next, I feel relaxed while giving a speech. Strongly disagree or strongly agree. And this would be relaxed speech. The next one is, my thoughts become confused and jumbled when I'm giving a speech. Strongly disagree or strongly agree. And you could put down jumbled. While giving a speech, I get so nervous, I forget facts I really know. Strongly disagree or strongly agree. And you can remember this by forget facts. The next one is, I face the prospect of giving a speech with confidence. You can name this confidence. Strongly disagree or strongly agree. The next one is, while participating in a conversation with a new acquaintance, I feel very nervous. Strongly disagree or strongly agree. And this is new acquaintance. The next one is, ordinarily, I'm very calm and relaxed in conversations. You could call this calm and relaxed conversations. Strongly disagree or strongly agree. And that last one is, I have no fear of speaking up in conversations. So this would be no fear, strongly disagree or strongly agree. So by this time, you should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I think that's 10. 1, 2.
Hi.
Huh?
I missed 2 of them.
You missed 2 of them.
Yes,
Okay.
I missed.
So I'm going to go through them real quickly.
Uh-huh.
Generally, I'm comfortable while participating in group discussions. That's group discussions. I'm very calm and relaxed when I am called upon to express my opinion in meetings. That would be meetings. I like to get involved in group discussions, and that's like discussions. I feel relaxed while giving a speech. That's speech or relaxed speech. My thoughts become confused and jumbled when I'm giving a speech. You could call this confused and jumbled. While giving a speech, I get so nervous, I forget facts. This would be forget facts. I face the prospect of giving a speech with confidence. This would be confidence. While participating in a conversation with a new acquaintance, I feel nervous. This would be new acquaintance. Ordinarily, I am very calm and relaxed in conversations. And this would be calm and relaxed conversations. And then finally, I have no fear of speaking up in conversations. And this would be no fear. Does that help, Nadine? Did you get them all?
Yes, I did. Thank you.
Anybody need me to repeat any of them, or you all got it? You all got it?
Got
Okay,
it.
great. So I'm going to stop the share, and I'm actually going to ask you a question that I would love you to share in the chat, but if you feel uncomfortable, you don't have to do that. But the question is, based on your evaluation, what do you think is the main goal that you need to work on in this speechcraft? Now, this is really important because basically you're going to set your intentions for the speechcraft. What do you want to work on? So declare it. And when you declare it in the chat, you're actually outing yourself and you're making a commitment. Now, if you actually want to speak it out loud, please speak it out loud as well. Anybody want to say what they want to commit to for this speechcraft?
Yeah, I want to commit to being able to develop a speech quickly.
Quickly. Okay, great. All right. Gary says relaxed speech and confidence. Great. Anybody else?
So I would say group discussion involved relaxed speech and acquaintance.
And with new acquaintances, being able to speak with it. Great. All right, Nadine. Anybody else want to share?
Speech.
Relaxed speech. Yes, great. Thank you, Cassandra. Anybody else? Let's see if we got, you can also put it in the chat. Sandra says self-confidence. Good for you, Sandra, although you are pretty amazing already. It doesn't seem like you lacking confidence. Anybody else? Because if not, we're going to move on. And what we're going to move on to briefly, how are we doing on time? We're doing good.
Less confused and more clarity.
Less confused and more clarity. Yay! Thank you, Preeti. Hey, I hope you actually think about joining our Speechcraft. It would be lovely, but very good. I'm sure you're fine. Let's see. Your first assignment in the Speechcraft is an icebreaker. And I'm going to go, if I have a little time, after we do a demo of the icebreaker and get it evaluated, I will say a little bit more about what you need. But let me tell you that those of you who are in my particular group of 5 should have received an email from the Speechcraft with a link to the Speechcraft Gateway to access your materials. And in there, you will get materials about the Speechcraft and how to prepare your speeches. But in this Speechcraft, you are going to be doing level 1 of whatever path you are in. They're all the same. So that you're actually going to get credit for 4 or 5 speeches during the time that you're in the Speechcraft. Okay, doesn't that sound good? So the timing is going to be longer than what they say in the Speechcraft Gateway, which is like 3 to 5 minutes. Your speeches are going to be 6 and 7 minutes long. If you have questions about that, please go ahead and ask me to repeat that again. But we're going to be focusing on your level 1 in pathways, as those are the speeches that you're going to be giving. So the first speech is icebreaker. Does anybody know what an icebreaker is? What is it, Preeti?
That's when we start speaking and introducing ourselves to the club and the people around.
Right.
The members and the guests.
That's great. And what a great thing to start with. A story about yourself. Let me emphasize the word story. You do not want to give a chronology of your life. boring. You want to create an arc, a story with a beginning, a middle, and an end. And the end should either be some kind of success or illumination or discovery. And that will carry your story. And when you think about it as beginning, middle, and end, then it's much easier for you to remember your speech the first time you give your speech. So the first assignment is icebreaker. You have your speech length is anywhere between 4 and 6 minutes. And you will be getting support, and you don't have, it's not next week, it's the week after for those of you who are giving your speeches in the evening, and we will have breakout rooms. Now I would like to give a demonstration, or have Gary give us a demonstration of how to give an icebreaker. Gary Howarth, life is an experience. Life is an experience, Gary Howarth. And our evaluator is Kadisha.
Great. Well, thank you, Michelle. Appreciate the introduction. And I also want to thank Cynthia Stott for bringing me back into the fold of Toastmasters. I've been gone for 40 years, and it's about time I came back. Anyway, there's a couple of things that have really influenced my life for the most part. And it's a combination of experiences and entrepreneurship. My name is Gary Howarth, and the reason I joined Toastmasters is to learn how to speak better and to present myself in front of people, and I'm really excited about this opportunity. I grew up in Pasadena. I was born in Pasadena, California. Lived in Southern California all my life, and I'm the oldest of there's 4 siblings. And I'm the oldest, so I'm the boss. And they may disagree with that, but that's okay. But one person who was really influential in my life growing up was my grandmother. My grandmother taught me piano. She was a piano teacher. And I played piano from the time I was 5 years old until I was 13, started high school, and we would play at events, do duets together, and it really gave me an appreciation for music. And the second thing that she really gave me was a love for travel. I'll remember my very first trip. I was 3 years old, and we took a train ride from Los Angeles to San Francisco. Well, I grew up in the suburbs, so I only saw just row houses. We get to San Francisco, and there's these big buildings and the Golden Gate Bridge and cable cars, and I am just amazed. Everything is just magical, and that has influenced me my entire life. And so from that point, I decided that with the love of travel, I wanted to find a job or a work or career that involved travel. Well, I was getting my degree in chemical engineering and working as a chemist and really not liking it. And one day I was working, I could see these sales reps coming and going, they had company cars, going out to lunch, and I thought, there's something to this. And so there was an opening for a technical sales rep. I was a senior in college, and I walked into the president's office and said, you know, I'd be interested in the job. And I put on my cleanest smock, combed my hair, which I had a lot of hair back then. But I was scared to death. And I was standing in the hallway or the door to his office, and just asked him if I could have a job. And he probably waited 10 seconds to respond to me. For me, it seemed like 2 minutes or a lifetime. And he said yes. And that was the beginning of my sales career. And I never looked back. And in the various jobs I had, my sales had taken me all over the US. I've seen almost every state, but I did extensive traveling to Asia and going to Japan, Singapore, Korea, Taiwan, Malaysia. And I loved every minute of it. In fact, the travel part for me was more fun than the actual work I was doing at the time. I enjoyed that, but that wasn't my number one focus. But during my travels, I met a lot of people doing a lot of different things, and entrepreneurship really touched me. So and I think I always had the bug, because when I was 10, I started my first business washing windows in apartments across the street from where I lived. And that was the beginning of my entrepreneurship. And then as I worked for other companies, I was able to see products and markets that they should be involved in. And there's 3 separate times where introduced products where we really made a bit of millions of dollars on those sales. So it gave me an opportunity of being an entrepreneur while I was still working for somebody else. And then I finally decided to go out on my own. I've started 6 different companies. And the most recent thing that I'm doing right now, and it really resonated with me, the speech tonight, because the business is called Connect by Voice. And it's about enhancing email by being able to respond to them with your voice or with a voice message. And you could also use it for sending out voice emails. So I'm really excited about that, being able to be a part of Toastmasters, work on my speaking, all ties in very well. And life is all about experiences. So I hope everybody takes today and makes a great experience with it.
Thank you, Gary. And now I would like, yes, it was really what an interesting story. Kathleen, would you put a minute on the timer and let our evaluator have a minute to do her evaluation? Is that a time, Kathleen?
That's a
Okay.
minute.
All right. So Kadisha, are you ready to give your evaluation?
Yes, I am ready.
Okay. And Kathleen, can you time her also for her evaluation? Okay.
Madam Speech Coordinator, fellow Toastmasters, speech crafters, and especially Gary. Gary, congratulations on giving your icebreaker speech after 40 years of staying away from Toastmasters. Welcome back. We're glad you're here.
Thank you.
I'd like to comment on your content, delivery, and organization of your speech. Let's start with the organization. I loved your organization. I liked how you prefaced your speech by talking about how you heard about Speechcraft and your introduction to it, and then you moved right into your speech. Your speech had a wonderful introduction, body, and conclusion. I love that your speech was chronological. You talked about your childhood, then how your career started, grandma, and on to this point. That was awesome organization there. Also, I love the stories you weaved into the body of your speech about how you started your career and your grandmother and childhood stories. I thought those were well told and well developed. And by hearing those, we got to know more about you, which is basically the purpose of an icebreaker speech, to introduce yourself to the audience. One more thing about the organization, Gary, I like that you inserted humor as well. And your humor You smiled when you said them, which prepared us for something funny coming along, which leads me to the delivery of your speech. Your gestures were natural. When you said something about your hair, you did a natural movement that just was naturally, your body spoke as you were speaking naturally. Your eye contact was very good as well, Gary. I could tell that you were looking at the camera, which gives the illusion of making eye contact with each person in the room. Your framing was also good. We could see you in the frame of your camera right there. And your content. I think that your content was spot on. We got to learn about you, Gary. And I think everything that you mentioned could also be developed into a speech later on. So you kind of introduced yourself to us very well. One thing you could work on to make your speech even more impactful, Gary, and it's very minor in terms of your delivery. I noticed that when you forgot to say something, you would look in the upper right-hand corner and came back. You came back, which was good, but we could see when your eye shifted and we lost eye contact when you did that. Very minor. All in all, Gary, excellent organization, content about yourself, and delivery. Welcome back to Toastmasters. We're so glad you're here. Over to you, Madam Speech Coordinator.
Thank you, Kadisha. That was a wonderful evaluation. I'm giving the general evaluation of her evaluation so you can understand how to improve your evaluations as well. Kadisha was very, very supportive and encouraging, very detailed in pointing out all the good aspects of Gary's speech. And she prefaced her speech with the 3 areas that she was going to focus on: the structure and the delivery. And did I write down the third one? But she covered all. What was the last one?
Organization.
Organization. I thought that was the first thing.
Content.
Delivery.
Oh, content and organization. Yes. Whew, thank you. So content, organization, and delivery. And she touched on all those areas and gave great examples of each one. And then when she talked about a goal, or a stretch goal for Gary, she noticed one thing that maybe distracted the audience a little bit. And then she went back to really acknowledging Gary, first of all, in the beginning, for coming after so many years. Now, Gary, I would like to add in my evaluation and would suggest also to go a little bit deeper. You can make the speech even better by giving less detail and drill in on the most powerful point in your story. And so that everything leads up to that point. So if all the point is how you became an entrepreneur, how does different points get you there? And ideally, to make it simple, because you've only got like 6 minutes, is to have the beginning, maybe your experience with your grandmother and travel, and then going into travel and experiencing the other people, maybe that were entrepreneurs, and then finally your job giving you the opportunity to be an entrepreneur and becoming an entrepreneur. So it becomes a simpler structure. It's easier for people to follow. Not that there was anything wrong with your details, but actually to go into the details in terms of a story so that it's easier for us to follow.
Okay.
And if you wanted to go challenge yourself a little more, you could actually have some conversations with some of the people along the way, and that you can introduce the vocal variety. So great, Kadisha and Gary, excellent first speech. And I'm actually giving you some pretty major stretch goals, but I hope that you can take them and use them in your speeches to come.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you, Gary. Now, I think we're going to go over to Kadisha again. How much time do we have? We have about 5 minutes. You know, I don't know that we're going to have time for table topics. We only have 5 minutes, 6 minutes left. No, 5 minutes left. So I want to focus on the icebreaker and see if there are any questions for you around the icebreaker. We could do, does anybody have any questions about the icebreaker and what you need to do? Those of you who are in the Speechcraft and are going to be doing that 2 weeks from today. Any questions? But Gary, you're off the hook. Yes.
I do have a question though. I know with time, but I wasn't exactly sure where I was with the timing of it and how close I was to the 6 minutes.
Right.
Or-
So
or,
Kaplan, how was he on his timing?
Oh my goodness, could it get better? You were at 5 minutes, 27 seconds, and you have 4 to 6 minutes.
That is amazing. So
Plus, he used the word of the day. How
And
cool
he-
is that?
oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. That's great. So Gary, I didn't even know there was a word of the day. What was the word of the day?
Resonant.
Resonant. Oh my gosh, I totally missed that. So Gary, that was my fault. I forgot to identify who the timer was. And I will do that in the future. Make sure that you, when you have a timer, that you pin the timer. And then you are able to see them. It means you can't see yourself, but it
Sure.
does mean that you can see the person, especially when we have this many people in the room. So,
And when you're in the gallery view, you can see the timer. In a small group like this, it's easy to find the timer.
Okay, great.
so
Thank
you can always change the gallery view. You're not the one doing the recording, so you don't have to worry about what it's going to look like on the recording, because it's the
Right.
recordingist who is deciding that. Any other questions? We have about 4 minutes. Anybody?
Nadine has her hand up.
Okay, Nadine, I'm going to look at the
Yes,
gallery.
hi. Right,
Yes.
hi. My question is, do you have to start at the beginning? You said something about storytelling, beginning, middle, end. Can you start in the middle and then, say something about the beginning and the end?
Just like a screenplay, you can play around with that.
Okay,
You can play around with that. You can start in the middle because you want to get to the most exciting part. And then before you end or crescendo, you drive people crazy by taking them back to the beginning. Oh, and the way that we really started out on that treacherous mountain climb was back in April of 1965, and you can do that, but do it intentionally, not because you've forgotten to give the first part of your speech, but that you actually want to go there. Okay, does that help?
Yes, it does. In terms of organizing the speech,
Mhm.
what's supposed to be there?
Okay, so there's a lot of possibilities, but generally we use the structure of 3. That is, it's easy for people to remember 3 points. And if you were going to give more than 3 points, you want to fit them in those 3 main points. So at one time I gave a speech about the structure of speech, and I had 3 points, but in each point I had 3 subpoints. But you have to remind people. And so you begin your speech by talking about what it is you're going to talk about, which was what Kadisha did in her evaluation very well. Number 2, you give the 3 points that you promised. And then in the end, you give a summary of what you've done. That's so that if people, their minds kind of got distracted, they get a chance to catch up and remember what it is that you said. So Gary, that's another thing that you can remember in helping structure your speech, is to do a, prep people for where they're going to go. I'm going to, but it doesn't mean that you start out with that. We're going to definitely talk about beginnings and endings in the plenary. We're going to have some speakers talking about how to make dynamic beginnings that really capture people's attention and say, oh, I want to hear about this. Lean in. That's what you want. You want to lean in. So Nadine, does that help you a little bit with the structure?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else have a question? We have 2 more minutes. Yes,
just have-
Sandra.
Are we starting back from the beginning of the Speechcraft from number 1?
Yes. Well, no, Cassandra, you are one of our mentor assistants, so you can do
Mhm.
whatever. But you want, you can, if you have a chance to do a speech, you can give a speech that's anywhere in your speech.
Where I'm at in Pathways?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
But the rest of the people, they're going through level 1.
Okay.
Anybody who's in the Speechcraft that doesn't have a level 1 to work on.
Got it. Okay.
Because those of you who have actually paid your $10 and have signed up for the Speechcraft, you want to start with, now, Gary, you've done your first speech, so you can go ahead into Pathways, into Basecamp, and go ahead and check that off, finish that off. Okay. And the rest of you, in 2 weeks, we're going to want you to be giving your speeches if you can. And Kathleen, have you set up a time for people to learn how to use Speakeasy to let people know, everybody know that they are signing up for speeches? Have you got a date yet?
No, I'll send an email out to everybody and try to find, maybe I'll do a doodle poll, try to find a couple of dates and time slots.
There work. Now, you might want to have a different time for the people who are in the evening class and people who are in the morning class, or the afternoon class, the morning afternoon class, because some of them are actually on the other side of the world and they may not be able to make it to evening meetings.
Right. So I'm one of those persons. I had a conflict today, and I didn't realize I was checking the time wrong, and so I have a conflict with this time.
Okay. So Nadine, would you rather be in the daytime? It starts at 11 a.m. or actually people get there earlier than that, but 11 a.m. Pacific time. How many hours are different? What time are you right now?
So it's now 10:37 here. I'm in New York.
Oh, just 3 hours difference. Okay,
Right.
Yeah, I think Linda's got a similar problem there, but 10:37. So that's a little late for you, is that right?
Right, and I do have another meeting that ends at 9:30. So
Right. So
yes.
you would like to move over to Linda's group in the afternoon, and so that would start next week, and so you can come back again and see her presentation.
Right. Okay.
Okay, and we can make sure that Linda has your name on her list. Okay.
Sure, no problem.
Okay, so Kadisha, sorry, you brought Nadine in, but Nadine's going to Linda, but Linda certainly needs another person, so that'll be great. And we'll find you another one. We're working on it. Okay, any other questions?
Yes, I have a question.
Yes, Grace.
Since I did my introduction speech.
Yes, you did.
Before.
That's right.
Am I supposed to be repeating this same speech, or?
You can if you want, but no, you can go to the next one if you want. Because I would rather see you do more speeches. So if you finish all of your speeches in level 1, I'd be happy to see you giving speeches in level 2 as well. Because everybody learns especially from people who are advanced. They learn faster when they are exposed to really good speeches, like I was being exposed to James Jeffrey. So yes, I would say go ahead and be ready to give your first speech 2 weeks from today.
Okay.
Not your icebreaker, but your first speech. And there are instructions. And since I did already talk about structure, you already have some of the information on how to do that. Plus, if you go into the speech gateway, there will be more information there as well. Any other questions? We actually should be going back into the main room. So I'll see you all back in the main room. Did you have a question, Gary?
Just real quick, so should I be prepared for my second speech for the next time we meet in 2 weeks?
No, you're going to always give you're our major demo speaker. So you're always going to be giving your speeches on the alternate week.
Okay,
And then you can help us out as maybe being an evaluator or timer or some other role that would be really helpful to us.
fantastic.
Evaluator,
We'll talk.
timer. Yeah. Okay, great. All right.
Thank you, Michelle, for the fun and informative meeting.
Thank you. Thank you all. And we'll see you in 2 weeks. Except Nadine.
I have a question.
Yes, yes. Correct.
Is this a Speechcraft ongoing, like every 2 weeks you have the same thing, or you'll have a episode 1, 2, 3, 4?
Episode
does it
1, 2,
go?
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yes, we're going to do
And-
something. So the first one is a training. The second one is giving speeches. Then the next one's a training, and then the next one is giving speeches. So, but also in each of the evening meetings, there will also be plenary speakers who are going to be giving you more information and training. So we actually have identified people to give really good trainings as well in the
So the plenary speakers are only in the evenings?
No, we have them in the mornings too. I'm just talking to our evening group, and no, we have them throughout, and they will be recorded, so you can watch them whenever. If you can't make it, you can also watch them later. And
But I
Linda,
can also come back to visit, right? The evening
yes, you
one.
can always, if you can't make, sometimes you can't make the other time, you can also just let us know so that we can make sure that we have space for you.
Okay.
And Linda,
So
do you
can we
want to?
just voluntarily come, or is it like we have to put you, like we have to keep you updated about whether we are coming, not coming? Is there a procedure to register it? How does it go?
So Preeti, if you want to join the Speechcraft and be part of the Speechcraft, you need to pay the $10 for the Speechcraft material. I know you're already a Toastmaster. And so if you want to do that, make sure that I have have you signed the guest list? So
Yes,
I can send you either a Zelle or PayPal for you to pay the $10. Okay.
Okay, I want to volunteer to support you for this if you need my support. Just to let you know, I have been a coordinator in one of the Speechcraft programs for PwC in India. So I was just trying to see what's the difference between the digital one and what's the current, the old one. So that's the reason I joined here.
Preeti, we are also looking for support. So if you would rather do that than actually do the Speechcraft, that's also an option. So let's email each other offline and have a conversation about where we're going to go from there. Okay.
Sure.
Any last messages? I know they're waiting for us in the other room. Linda, do you want to say anything to the group about your program that's starting next week?
Well, we will be following the same schedule that Michelle has.
Hopefully with more time.
With hopefully more time, but basically the same sort of process of education and a demo speech, and then more instruction as to what's going on in the next few weeks. And the second week is all about you and giving those presentations. So we'll start with the icebreaker. And I'm looking forward to actually being in both. So I get a chance to see and preview what Michelle is doing so that I can bring that back to the afternoon session. So it's going to be exciting.
It is going to be great. It's going to be really, really juicy. So I'm really happy to have all of you on board, and see you back in the main room. And in 2 weeks.
Thank you so much, Michelle.
You're so welcome. It was my pleasure.
Michelle, we need to talk. Well, we are talking.
Yes.
Yeah.
We are.
Okay.
Wednesday. Talk to you Wednesday.
Okay.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.